guys, I'm Badfish, and as always, this is Gonegaming. Welcome back to San Pedro. We're here again, finishing up our utilities today. I wanted to start off with a little bit of a live play, just because off camera I did do some changes to the highway. You're looking at one right now. This is actually an asset I pulled off the Steam Workshop. It's one of the most popular intersections, but I did add a few of my own, so I wanted to just kind of go through that with you guys and talk about what's going on with the highways. So if you can see, before we really only had this stretching this way and then one going up through here. So I added kind of all these ancillary highways just to add some different places for us to build and just kind of map it out a little bit. These are subject to change, especially this one. This is like a 4-lane national road actually, so it might change up. But we can scroll in, see a few of them. So I really like making trumpet interchanges. I think they're really pretty once they're in use. So here's one that I made, just kind of going through another little intersection here. This is going to run down all the way down through here. And then if we look over here, we have, again, another trumpet. So just added a couple different things just to kind of flesh out the map a little bit more. And if we look at it, I actually did name a few places just of things that we might add. So of course we have the San Pedro water treatment plant up there, which we made last episode. Today, our plan, we are going to make the power. So I'm thinking kind of in this big open kind of desert area is where the power plant's going to go. We will actually add maybe like a little town because obviously we don't have any population right now, but if you look around, you can kind of get an idea for some of the ideas I'm having. So I'm thinking like right here, we kind of have two different cities stretched across. These two jut out, like a small port over here. We're going to make like a cool hillside town and a national park over here. All of these are subject to change, but I just wanted to kind of have a small plan out of where we can go with things. So we are going to be doing the power plant today. Like I said, we're going to kind of put it in this general area. Right now, all of our power is just coming from this vanilla asset down here. So we're going to jump into a time lapse in just a minute, get that going, and I'll see you in the time lapse. Thanks. So as you can see, I'm just starting out by just placing down some roads to kind of expand out the power plant a little bit. I also decided I wanted to do kind of a little small town here that kind of feeds into the power plant, like kind of a less affluent town. Like maybe their whole reason that it's there is just for the power plant. So I did just throw down like a few shops with that. Nothing much. We'll look at it later. That's actually probably going to change around because, as you can probably tell, it's a pretty basic layout so far. So as far as the power plant goes, I decided to go with a combination power plant. So it is technically an oil power plant, but it's cool because it's a little more efficient. I don't really want to say green because it's not necessarily green, but what it does is it acts like a normal oil plant where it uses engines obviously to create energy and obviously oil to create or to get those engines running. But then what it does is it actually takes the heated air that the engine creates and it compresses it and it puts it into a steam engine. So that's kind of why I had some of these big tanks around. Some of them in my mind at least are oil, some of them are water, but what it does is it heats up the water, which creates steam, which adds more energy through the steam engine. So it is technically a little bit more efficient. It's not necessarily green, but a little bit better. I thought it would kind of fit for what we're trying to do here with San Pedro. I think it's going to be kind of a little bit more of a eco-conscious liberal kind of city. I think that's plan at least. And we did throw down some solar panels, you'll see at the end here, which is actually creating the bulk of the energy that this plant outputs, which is funny. But in California, I was looking at a lot of different power plants, and a lot of them were kind of these combination power plants where they were doing something traditional, maybe like oil, coal, something, or hydroelectric, and they would have also these just big arrays of solar panels. So I wanted to kind of capture that, have a little bit more green energy in there as well. Later on we might add some more green energy, maybe like a wind farm, or hydroelectric or something. Not quite sure yet, but if you look in, right now I'm adding some transformers and things like that just to kind of flesh out the actual power network. I actually went through and built this once before and had to end up, I filmed like basically a whole episode with a different power plant, but I ended up erasing it because I was trying to actually terraform a reservoir, so like a natural reservoir for the plant, but the water physics in this game and myself do not get along, so that ended up getting scrapped. I just didn't like the way it looked, and I couldn't get the water to operate anywhere close to the way I wanted it, so that's what happened there. But I think it was for the best because this plant ended up looking worlds better than the other one. So right now what I'm doing is I'm actually just kind of taking out some of the trees in here. I'm doing that because I really wanted it just to be kind of clean cut, more or less. So I think, when they put down this power plant, they kind of cleared the area, so there wasn't fire hazards and things like that. And then right now I'm just adding in a little bit of pathing, so maybe technicians who went out there to look at the different pylons and stuff, they kind of carved out these little paths just from walking. And then I'm just adding some small overgrowth. It's a power plant, they're not necessarily going to be super worried about landscaping. So yeah, just putting in some rocks and stuff too, kind of roughing it up a little bit. And rocks actually have a little bit more of a story behind why I put them there. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit though when I get to the part of the detailing there, but I think they looked really nice once I finished it up and added just a little more texture to the actual area that we're working in, so I think that'll be good. So as far as the power plant, it was kind of honestly hard to come up with ideas, because you can put down these big assets, these big plants and stuff, and then as you're kind of decorating it through, you got to kind of just sneak things in. And I didn't want to repeat the mistake I made with the water plant where I just used 1,000 decals. I think just for sake of the game, not getting bogged down by all the assets and stuff and all the detail, I'm trying to use a more minimalistic approach to the decals and stuff like that. We're still very prop heavy and things like that, so you'll see when I start putting down some of the decals, I tried to be more purposeful with it. And same thing with the surface painter. I didn't want to just paint in huge areas of concrete. I just didn't feel like that would be what's going on in this area. This is a little bit more of like a rural kind of power plant, so I wanted to break it up a little bit. So I'm adding a little more texture here with the sand and the the ruined view and everything. So just trying to beat it up a little bit, and I think once you see the finished product, it looks really good the way the surface painter worked out. Again, just some little overgrowth for texture and visual. I actually do quite a bit of the overgrowth, but I think if you ever look in between big tanks like this and stuff, it's always overgrown, and definitely by the pipes and stuff there's always that long grass kind of peeking through. So I did put that, and later I'll add a few shrubs kind of dotting around here and there, but definitely more of the overgrown grass. I didn't try to do any big assets. And here I'm actually putting down some trees, which I end up erasing because I realized you don't want giant trees next to a power plant that's burning tons of oil. So I took that right out and just continued on with the overgrowth here. And then right here, I'm trying to just plan out a couple little parking lots and things of that nature. Just to put some cars and some construction equipment. And this is actually just like a little cargo area I wanted to build. And again, if you watch the use of the decals, I just place down a few. I kind of make them more of like a ridge line, I guess, was what I was trying to just kind of follow the way the cracks might form rather than just carte blanche placing them everywhere. And I did add a couple of these 2-stack cargo shipping containers that I got off the workshop. I thought those looked great. Got a couple different trucks as well thrown in here. And the pipe assets too, those are great. They are so easy to connect through, and they just really do add a lot of realism. So again, just adding some random industrial props just to make it look a little busier, a little more active in this area. A lot of water tanks and oil tanks, obviously, considering the kind of plant that we're running. And then just like some different construction stuff kind of scattered around, and barriers, just things to liven it up and add those little details that you would add to an industrial area that would be going on, because there's going to be just stuff strewn around, just kind of blocking off a road, just adding different things that make it seem like there's a lot going on, and then just putting some damage on that road, so that's why it's closed. Add some more shipping containers, and throwing in some parking lots here. So as far as what we're looking at as far as the plant goes, like I said, we looked a lot at California. I looked a little bit at a couple in like the Midwest US. I really want San Pedro to though kind of follow like a San Diego, San Francisco kind of vibe, LA kind of vibe. So I definitely took a lot of inspiration from power plants around there. So as far as the actual town on the outskirts, I want to talk a little bit more about that as I'm kind of adding some details here. So as you saw, I just kind of did a square build layout for the roads. I want to add a little more character to those. So I think that's going to be our next episode. I want to kind of turn it into like a little truck stop. I think it's at the convergence of a couple different highways, which is cool. And it's also next to this power plant as well as the water plant. So, a lot of trucks are going to be coming in and out of those. So I think a little truck stop is going to be kind of our next go. So you'll see me kind of build it out a little bit at the end of this episode, but I did just want to kind of go in a little bit more into the plan of what I want to detail there. So on screen right now, you're seeing me just add some security for the power plant. In hindsight, I do actually want to go through and add a little bit more security. I really only had this gatehouse. I was going to go through and add cameras and stuff, but I just forgot by the end of the time lapse to throw those in. So I think next episode 2 we'll go through and just add a little more security measures. But I did want to kind of create this little gatehouse. I think it ended up looking pretty good. It's a little more involved than the one that I did for the water plant. So we're gonna have like a police officer there standing with a M16, brooking no argument, and then kind of just putting some barriers around that. But I think the fencing ended up looking pretty good, because a lot of power plants, they do have a good amount of security going on, and whether that's for vandals or for nefarious acts or just for pests, I think especially where this is kind of out in the rural desert, I want to do that. So what I'm doing next is adding some pedestrian pathing around the fence, just so the draw distance obviously deletes the fence when you zoom out too far. So I actually took this, I've been watching some Arrowhead Junction, getting some inspiration from there, and Strict Coaster actually went through and did this on a few different things, I think like their airport and a couple different industrial things. So I just wanted to do that just so when you zoom out you can actually see like, oh, there's a fence there. I think it was a cool idea. And this right now, what you see me placing down, I'm throwing down some industrial. I end up scrapping this. I just couldn't get it to work the way I wanted to. So you know, I put these down. I could have cut this out in hindsight, but you know, I think it's important to see when stuff doesn't work out and just to like let yourself be okay with that. So I ended up deleting all those. I tried a couple of different things. Nothing really worked out the way I wanted it to. So I ended up actually just turning this into more of like a dirt construction lot. And I think it's all the better for it. I think if I put that office, it just would have stuck out compared to the more industrial power plant around it. So I think it actually ended up being for the best that didn't work out. So just putting in another little parking lot here, adding some of these cool big dirt decals, make it look more messed up. And yeah, you'll see me putting down a lot of these like big dirt decals, and then in a second here I'm going to create a little kind of like ore pile. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more. Like I said, there was a reason I added those rocks up by the power lines, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. You'll see here first, though, we are just building out the little rest area / town. I kind of envisioned it a little more of a low-income town, so there's not going to be any real big houses. I'm using a lot of the DK sub houses, which is great for like a rural American small town. And I am gonna, you know, kind of sporadically place the different trailers and stuff. Like I said, this is all just kind of a rough draft. I think we're gonna go through and really detail this and change it up in the next episode. But you know, for what it is, it looks okay. And I added just like some minimal detail to it as well. But as far as the rocks and everything, like I was saying with the power plant, so you're going to see at the end of the time lapse me throwing in an ore pile, and the reason I did that, my head canon behind all of this, is that maybe this was a mining town. You know, back in the day, there was a little mine going on where they were just getting minerals out of those surface rocks, and at some point it went under, and the city of San Pedro said, you know, hey, there's a bunch of flat land already mined out. You know, we could go and put our solar plant, put our power plant there because we have the room to do it. So that was what I was thinking as far as my idea behind putting that ore pile. So maybe they're still, you know, mining out parts of it, or just kind of cleaning up what was left from that mine around the industry, and then just, you know, selling off the minerals or using them in different projects and things. So when you see that kind of pop in, that was my idea for that. And then I'm just throwing down some random trash and stuff here. There was a broken TV. I think I really enjoy having random trash props that don't belong in places. Just one. Like I had the mattress in the first episode, so now we're putting down the broken TV. Someone was real angry at their spouse and came to work one day and just smashed their TV in half. So again, here's the ore pile. This actually is one of my favorite parts of the entire power plant. I think it actually came together really well, and the decals really added a lot of cool details with it. So adding just a couple of the conveyor belts, like I said, you know, this is just kind of the leftover ore from the mine that used to sit on this property, and that's why it's kind of, you know, so flat and, you know, not rocky anymore. And then I just added like a couple barracks for the employees, so when they have their lunch and stuff, they have a place to go. And like I said, I think it ended up turning out pretty well. I might replace that umbrella you just saw me place down. I wasn't wild about that. And then now I'm just throwing down some of these little houses just to give us some population. So this is actually going to be the first population of San Pedro. It's going to be this little truck stop rest area. Like I said, I just kind of sporadically placed them around. I actually didn't like the density of how I did this, so I actually went through and deleted some at the end. But again, I think this is all going to be kind of subject to change in the next episode. I think I want to do it a little less haphazardly, because really all I was doing here was just throwing them down for the sake of throwing them down. You know, I wanted a population. So we're going to go through and plan that out a little bit more in the next episode. But I do like the idea of just having like a little small town that services, you know, the power plant, as well as you know, maybe the water plant, although I might add its own little town to it at some point too, or even the city might stretch all the way up to the water plant. So like I said, went through and just deleted a few of these just to make it a little more sporadic. And then of course we started getting the water blips because I haven't put piping in, so at the end here I just kind of throw in some pipes to all of this. I wasn't sure if any of those buildings at the power plant actually needed water for the game, but they definitely need water for real life, so I did go ahead and throw that in, and then just connected that highway through. So we're getting towards the end of the time lapse here. You know, I just kind of play around with a couple more things, changing up roads, but for the most part, this is going to be kind of the finished product of the power plant itself. But yeah, like I said, I am pleased with how it turned out. I think it's better than the first one. So what we're going to do is, just like last time, we're going to leave you off with a little cinematic to enjoy, you know, what I built, and I will catch you at the end of the cinematic and we can go from there. Alright guys, well that's gonna just about do it for this episode. I really enjoyed building this power plant. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. As always, my name's Badfish. This has been Gonegaming. You know, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below. Definitely comment if you have any ideas for what we can add to the city. And if you want to see some more, please subscribe. But I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good one.